reason why we are bringing this up is because what we're about to cover in this particular video are the scientific studies, the hard facts, the laboratory results and experiments that have been done in well-funded laboratories with really good equipment to show the effects of orgone energy. And we wanted to make sure that you, our viewers, understand that this is the information that we're covering, and we're staying kind of far away from any of that other stuff that has to do more with a belief system than the actual science and the observation of it. So with that said, Tavon, can you start us out by just commenting a little bit on what you've seen around science, pseudoscience, the scientific method when it comes to information covering orgone energy?
Yeah, sure. One of the things that we ran across when we started researching orgone energy, especially coming from the perspective of orgonite and these other derivatives from the technology, is we researched the life of Wilhelm Reich, but more specifically into his development of this energy, of orgone energy, what he used to measure it. So he used a series of contraptions, experiments, in order to get some quantifiable data from this new form of energy at the time that he was doing his research. So we're talking 1930s, 1940s. So basically he created this body of work that was based on science, and when you look at the progression of the things he was working on, it went from the human psychology, especially from his angle, because he was a student of Sigmund Freud, and under psychology, sexuality, but then starting into the hard sciences when he tried to observe the energy fluctuations coming off of the human body and found that this is an actual whole new phenomenon. And he ended up having to develop devices in order to measure this particular field, this energetic field, bioenergetic field. So that's the hard science, and the experiments that they developed back during that time is being replicated to this day by universities. But what we're also seeing in parallel to those replications is kind of like an advancement of that technology, but it's being spun in almost like a new agey, again, belief system or doctrine. And so we're trying to dispel that, get rid of that, and just kind of like stick to the science, stick to what it's capable of and its implications, specifically as far as not only healing individuals, but also healing the planet. The Wilhelm Reich Infant Trust has basically continued the late Dr. Wilhelm Reich's legacy. He left it in his will, basically the continuation of this work. And this group has basically kept the museum, which was his research laboratory, and his published material available for the public. He was born during the end of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and he survived World War II. And so he saw he saw fascism, and he saw the nuclear tests being done afterwards. And from that time is when he was developing making his most amazing discoveries dealing with orgone energy. The accumulator was made, like, I think it was 1939, 1940, during that time period, and this was right at the end of World War II, and during the beginning of the nuclear bomb testing. So you can go to this website and you can look at his work, but also, in addition to that, I'm just going to get access to this page here. What I want to also share with you is the Wilhelm Reich Infant Trust covers his biography into more detail. So if you want to see more or know more about what he was in more of a more detailed summary, again, come to this website. It talks about his youth, the summarization of his youth, him being a student under Sigmund Freud, and it's broken up into sections, so it's really great. It goes into his early study of it's called bioelectrical experiments, and in fact, his orgone energy research was basically an offshoot of bioelectrical experiments. And the bioelectrical experiments go on to this day, so that's why there is a very close connection between those experiments and then what people are experimenting with the Orgone energy accumulator type devices. And then it goes into his years in America and his legacy in America, and the FDA basically shutting him down and shutting down the research for a couple of decades until it's basically gotten restored, and to this day is being replicated, and people are actually using it for their own personal and medical uses.
Here we are again, my